Hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome, everybody. I'm glad that we could join together today, here and now. As I had to cancel this live stream 2 days ago, so thank you all for your understanding, your patience. If you joined or tried to join or were looking forward, I know many of you were. I made an announcement in my group here, Natalie's Healing Circle, so you can join there if you're not there already. It's a place to stay in touch. And yeah, I shared in there that the power went out, so I wasn't able to do the live stream. And yeah, so glad that we're all here right now. Hello, Patriot Lady, Andrea, Nancy, Wendy, Kat. Great that we can all join in here right now for this live stream that I'm excited to be sharing with you today, called Slowing Down to Speed Up, the Art of Aligned Change. So we're just going to give a few minutes for people to join in, and we are going to open with doing a grounding and centering in the spirit of slowing down. So I invite you all to close your eyes just for a few moments with me. And just arrive here. Feel your body where it is, on the surface that it's on. And just bring your mind to where your body is, here and now in this moment that we are sharing together. Breathing more deeply and fully. Slowing the breath. If you notice you're in a more activated state, you can breathe in for a count of 2 or a count of 4, and then you can breathe out for double that, so a count of 4 or 6. And that activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the relaxation response. And just slowing down. Okay. And you can either keep your eyes closed if you prefer to be here in that way, or if you want to come back to open eyes, you can. Welcome, Allie and Angela. So, as I said, today we're talking about slowing down to speed up, and we're going to be exploring how sometimes the fastest way to the life that we want is by slowing down. And we can create space when we slow down for clarity, alignment, and right action to emerge, or the next right step. Welcome, Lady Peacock. So I invite you, I know most everybody that said hello. If you're new, please say hello, share where you're from if you like, or share an emoji in the chat if you don't feel up to typing. You can follow me here on the link that popped up on the screen if you don't already. This is also being double live streamed on my YouTube channel, and all my replays are there. And you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and socials, all social medias or most. So welcome, J.E. So just given the title of the live stream, what does that make you think about for yourself in your own life? Where do you notice that you want to speed up, or you're pushing, you're in urgency, wanting to force things to happen, controlling, managing, manipulating, to try and force an outcome? Welcome, Samantha. Glad you're here. Yeah, and like wanting to get somewhere else because here and now, or things as they are now, is not good enough or is not okay. Wendy and recovery, spiritual life. Yeah, those are really deep and powerful areas to look at of, especially if people are in the 12-step world. It's like, I've got to do the steps. I've worked with many people. One of my life coaching clients that I've worked with for almost a year, they have also uncovered that they want to be in recovery, and they've started the process. And we were talking about doing the 12 steps, and they were like, I just want to hurry up and get into them and get through them, which is super common. And I invited them to slow down. This is a process, not an event. Ooh, wonderful, Samantha. Yeah. So actually, I offer a visioning process. Samantha, this might speak to you, where we look at where the person is in their life and where they want to go, and then what's in the way. And we really slow down, and this is a really sacred pause for people. And so if that resonates, feel free to reach out. Wendy wants to be more advanced. So in the Big Book study, the AA Alcoholics Anonymous textbook, in the work I've done there with people, it's not a fast process. It's very much a steady process. And that's come up a lot in doing that work with people, is you don't need to hurry up and rush through, to get somewhere. Yeah. Thank you, Patriot Lady. Thank you so much. It's good to see you here again. I know you've joined in many, many times over the years, and that's wonderful. So I was thinking about an example I could share from my own life about this, and definitely like the step thing would be one, and something maybe broadly relatable is So I was in Asia for 6 years. And I decided to come back to Mexico. I live in Mexico, for those who don't know. I was living in one town, and I did not like living there. It was a great town to visit, but not to live, and I very quickly found out. So even after like 2 weeks in, I was like, I don't want to live here. And so I came back here to the town I'm in now, which I've lived in this town a handful of times over almost 10 years. I came back to visit, and I was like, oh my God, I want to be here. This is where I want to be. I love the energy here, etc. And so it was actually over Christmas last year. And I was like, oh my God, my lease was up in the other town like 10 days later. And I didn't want to renew for another month because I just had to get out of there. So I was here at Christmas, Christmas Eve. I'm looking for places to live. I'm pounding the pavement. I walked so many steps that I got bursitis in my knee. That was, healing took a few months. And I just looked and looked, at a handful of places over the few days. I didn't find anything. And I decided, I don't care, I am not staying in the other town, so I'm just going to rent, a room temporarily. And while I'm renting that, I'm going to, again, pound the pavement and try to find something so I can live here. So meanwhile, I go back to the other place and I start looking online for places to live and just scouring groups and all sorts of places to find, an apartment or something to rent in this town. It was also high season, so everything is, super booked. And I was looking and looking and looking and looking. So do y'all see a theme here with this? I was pushing, I was forcing, I was in fear, I was very attached to having a certain outcome. So I found something, and it didn't quite fit, but I was like, beggars can't be choosers. I need to find something. I can take this for a few months and then find something else. And I went as far as having them send me the lease. And then it was time to pay the deposit. And the landlord for the place was already not friendly and being difficult through the realtor. And the realtor was complaining. And I just was like, and I didn't know about the internet. That was one thing. They couldn't tell me about the Wi-Fi. And as you guys know, I need good Wi-Fi to be able to be live with you, with my coaching clients, to be on Zoom video and not have issues. But yet they didn't know, or they couldn't find out, and the landlord didn't want to be bothered anymore. But I was like, oh my God, I just need to take this. And I remember there was a moment where I just was like, let me look one more time online, because it felt like pushing a boulder up a hill with this other place. And I started looking, and I just slowed down and I took a breath, and I was just open and curious and looking, and guess what happened? Immediately, I found a place. I had seen it before, but I had discounted it the first time. I was like, nah, it was too expensive, or I don't know what my thought was actually now. But I was like, no. And I saw it again, and I was like, oh, wait, this place looks amazing. I reached out. It was, the landlord was in charge of, there was no realtor middleman. The landlord was instantly available. They were so kind. They had also been to Bali a lot, so there was all these synchronicities. And it just felt right. And I ended up, it just fell into place. It was available when I needed it. And so they gave me a video walkthrough, and I was like, I'll take it. And I just thank God that I paused and that I slowed down and gave myself another chance to look and to be open and to be receptive, because I would be in a very different place right now. And I love this place, and it's my most favorite place I've ever lived. And I don't plan on leaving for the foreseeable future. So thinking about slowing down to speed up, that is a perfect example. And then even like the art of aligned change. I was trying to force and push something. I was not in alignment. And I was stressing myself out. I remember my good friend Alicia Bliss, many of you know here, an Insight Timer. I was telling her, and she's like, "You're the manifestation queen. You'll get a wonderful place." And I was just full of fear and control. And I just was like, "No." And, she was right. So taking that pause to slow down allowed space for something different to emerge. And then, things happened very quickly after that. Like, that same day or the next day, I was like, I'll take it. And there was no complication about it. It flowed. It just flowed. It was aligned change. So, in my work with my coaching clients, this is what I support people with. From over efforting to moving with clarity and alignment and, presence, and coming from that place instead of, this grasping energy. J.E., yes, it was high season. Yes, there are a lot of tourists where I live. Woo! Wow, that's amazing, Patriot Lady. I love how that just occurred. Hi, Nia. Wonderful. How many of you have had that happen with a job? I have also had that happen. So back in 2008, I had been married a few years, and I had moved away from the town where I'd been living to a place where there wasn't a lot of jobs. And not that I was like urgently looking, but it was like I needed to get a job. And I remember I was at a party, a friend of my husband's, and I was introduced to somebody, and this person, they were working at an alcohol and drug abuse mental health counseling center. And I was like, oh, I'm in recovery. I'd be happy to come and share my story, because she was saying she had a women's group, like a women's recovery group that met. And I was like, yeah, if you need like a volunteer, or if you need me to speak, and tell my story to the group, I'm happy to do that. And she's like, okay, and actually we're hiring desperately, and we need a receptionist. And I was like, well, it's not really, my ideal, and I do need a job right now. And so I went into the interview. I got hired on the spot. And that job I went in and I just solved all these problems. Like there was so much disorganization, and I pretty much like put systems in place. I cleaned things up, and then I ended up creating a new position because I was growing with the company. So after about a year, because I was solving problems, I created a position for myself where then I was working from home. And actually this job, I ended up leaving the US and being able to work remotely all over the world as a result for 8.5 years. So again, it was this being receptive, being open. And what got me in the door with that is really interesting, because it was me being of service, me seeing an opportunity to help, and then being offered, a paid position. And, having that job for almost 13 years allowed me to begin this amazing life that I have. And even me becoming a life coach came from me being of service to others in 12-step and finding passion and joy in that. And then again, not forcing, not pushing, not trying to make something happen, but just allowing the unfolding, and really just slowing down allowed momentum to build automatically. So things sped up and things happened when and as they were meant to. So lots of examples in my own life where, you can see the contrast of this. So I want y'all to share in the chat what you're thinking about, and where in your life right now are you pushing or forcing? Right now, and I know somebody talked about recovery, spirituality. Where in your life right now are you pushing or forcing or efforting? And can you, if you think about it right now, do you see that happening? And maybe just slowing down right now, maybe you didn't even notice that you have been pushing or forcing. Hey, Caitlin. Finding direction. Yeah, needing to let go. I'm just thinking about the word urgency. And I'm wondering how many of you live from a state of urgency as sort of your default, of like always going to the next thing. Everything is like, has this urgent energy underneath. And I know I've noticed that within myself over the past few months. And so it's great to have the noticing, because then with the awareness, then I can allow myself to slow down, even walking. And guess what, y'all? I re-injured my knee. So, the universe is forcing me to literally slow down. So the next question is, what's the cost of moving at that pace? What's it costing you to move from urgency, pushing, forcing, efforting? Patriot Lady, what do you mean spiral work? Doing spiral work daily in your life? Wendy says not so much an urgency, but a busyness, always moving. So that's a wonderful distinction. I'm so glad you brought that up, because that can be a sign of resistance to distract, right? Busyness to me is more about distraction. And it's like, what am I trying to take my attention away from by being constantly busy or thinking I'm busy? Allie feels like they need to figure out an income. Yeah, so if there's, I mean, there might be urgency as far as paying bills and things. And yeah, like me with my example of this, of finding the house, there was an urgency because, you know, I had a lease up and I chose all of that. I could have renewed, you know, I could have stayed at that other place for another month, but my priority was GTFO. So I put myself in the position of creating that urgency. Oh, Patriot Lady meant to say spiritual work. That makes more sense. Cat's been training a couple of dogs. Ooh, the new dog is always in a hurry. Teaching you to slow down. That's a great example. No worries, Patriot Lady. Maybe you get to slow down your typing. So whatever's coming up for you around what you've been trying to speed up, what might slowing down open up for you? What might slowing down open up for you? Share in the comments. That's powerful, Wendy. So what you're seeking in the efforting, if you slow down, you may receive the shift that you're chasing. And just like with my moving example, that's exactly what happened. When I slowed down, I got what I was looking for. And there was no, you know, it just fell in my lap. And the job that I mentioned too. So it would bring being more present, open to connection and opportunities. You know, that reminds me, Allie, of when we are present and when we are in like a different mindset, that we see things, or even a different energy, that we see things we wouldn't have seen before, although they were always in front of our eyes. Just like I said, like I saw the listing for this place before, but for whatever reason, I think I was in a hurry and I just didn't really look, and I saw something, I was like, no, I don't want that, and I discarded it. And it wasn't until I went through that whole process, slowed down and looked again, and the same place was there, but I saw it with different eyes. So slowing down would open a portal of peace and presence. So we're going to do just a brief closed eye practice of visualization. So again, if you were here in the very beginning, we'll close our eyes again. Just exhale with sound if that feels good. And I want you to imagine there's a river in front of you that's like rushing by. And you feel like you just want to hurry up and get across. And you're noticing the tumultuous water. And your eyes are like scanning and scanning for a path. And maybe you just jump in and you take a few steps in the current, start sweeping you away, and you have to back up, and the rocks are slippery, and then you climb back out. And just notice the energy that brings up. And then imagine you look a little bit upstream and you see that it's calmer. And you walk to that part of the river and the water's moving more slowly. You can see the bottom and you can see there's rocks close to the surface. And you mindfully move across the river in this place. And just feel how that feels to be on the other side. To be in your body as you move across. Notice how it feels when you're moving from alignment versus the first part where there was forcing and rushing and just trying to get her done and get through. Just sense into the difference. And just breathe from this place of peace and alignment and presence. And just whatever is top of mind for you in this talk today, as far as what you're thinking of in your own life. And just imagine after this talk that you're moving back into your life with 5% less speeding up urgent energy, and 5% more slowing down alignment energy. From that place, what might you do differently this week? If you're living from 5% more alignment and slowing down, and 5% less urgency and speeding up. What might you do differently, or what maybe you might not do? You might start something, or you might stop something. So you can go ahead and open the eyes if you wish. And I say this often in my coaching. How you do one thing is how you do everything. So if you notice you're living from this sped up energy in one area, I imagine it's not just in one place. So you can work with that now that you notice. So share in the comments what you're going to either do or not do. And remember that slowing down's not about doing nothing. It's about creating space to see clearly. Oh, that's cute. I love that, Caitlin. And even, I think it was Kat earlier talking about training dogs and them being a mirror. So that's a wonderful example, Caitlin. You know, what comes to mind for me is when you are going to be present and really love your animals in the moment, then that gives you more capacity and energy to have that loving for yourself. And you may notice a softness within yourself as a result of that. And when we move from alignment, often we skip unnecessary struggle and reach the outcomes faster. And like with me and the house thing, you know, I was kind of like giving up whenever I went to look again online. I really wasn't thinking. I just was like, I'm probably not going to find anything. This is probably a waste of time, but I'm just going to do it anyway. So I was much more open and unattached to an outcome. And then it fell into my lap. Oh, great, Patriot Lady. So in the rapids, fast river, you felt fearful, constricted in the body, and closed. And then when you moved through the more calm part of the river, you felt open, alive, and fluttery, laid down and almost went to sleep and felt calm and at ease. Who else had that experience? I think too, a lot of this dynamic, the speeding up, when we're in that mode, it's about control. Where am I trying to control outcomes, trying to manipulate, force things on my timeline? You're so welcome. Appreciate you joining. And so this is one of the most powerful shifts I see in my work with my clients, is when they begin to pair slowing down, patience, with then precision, things fall into place and shift. Yeah, Allie, I do. I mean, I believe, for me, my beliefs are it's all ego. Yeah, or even like fear and love. Is it okay now, Allie, or not? Or is anybody else having an issue with my voice? Yes. I don't know. Hi, Jenny. Is this any different? Maybe I'll unplug the mic. I don't know what changed. Okay. So, is it happening still or not? Okay. Okay. Well, thank you. And we are coming to the end. So, okay, that must be a problem with my new microphone. Water running. Well, now it's coming through my computer and the fan is running, so likely it's that. Okay. Thank you all so much. So, as I offered earlier to, I think it was Samantha, um, who shared that they were slowing down and not clear on next steps or feeling into the next steps. Anybody that's feeling stuck right now or just wanting more clarity, seems like my internet is also doing something. I have a few spots open still for my gifted visioning process. So we look at where you are now, where you want to be, and what's in the way. And it's a really powerful and clarifying process that I offer as a gift. So if you feel that call, reach out, send me a private message. Do it now before You forget. It looks like it's still a bit choppy. Wonderful. Thank you, Allie, Angela. So, we'll go ahead and close as the universe is giving a signal to slow down with the technical difficulties. So, let me know what your biggest takeaway is in the comments. What are you going to do differently? How are you going to slow down 5% more and release 5% urgency, speeding up? You can follow me if it's going to allow me to do this. We'll see how the internet is. You can follow me here on Insight Timer, also on my YouTube channel. Thank you, Kat, J.E., Wendy, Grounding More, Allie, bringing an added dimension of slowing down to hear and feel. Wonderful. If anybody cares to make a donation, you can click there, or you can donate anytime in the chat or in the Insight Timer. And I will see you all Sunday morning for Sunday Morning Live at 10:15 a.m. Eastern for our weekly spiritual guidance, Reiki, and ancestral clearing. Thank you all so much for joining, and stay tuned also for more scheduled live streams. I've got some fun and powerful topics coming up. So stay tuned for those. Thank you, Patriot Lady, for checking. And yeah, have a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening. And I will see you all soon.